First to Iowa, all the attention, just about all the candidates are there telling us why tonight is so important.
It starts here in Iowa.
Iowa becomes an example, a model for the rest of the country.
If we win Iowa, I think we're going to win everything after that. So I think it's going to show how important Iowa is.
President Santorum and Huckabee might disagree. Joining me more on this are Jennifer Braceras, a Republican, opinion editor at NewBostonPost.com. She's a supporter of Marco Rubio. Good to see you, Jennifer. You Warren Tolman's a Democrat, former state senator, state rep, and candidate for governor. Warren, good to see you. Dante Ramos is an op-ed columnist at the Boston Globe. Good to see you again. Can you humor me for a few minutes before we discuss this? One of my obsessions. Older, whiter, more rural, only 20% turnout, and you got to show up between 7 and 9 if you want to exercise your Democratic vote. Why should Iowa have the power it does in this nominating process?
Well, it only does because Jimmy Carter showed up there in 1976 when nobody else was. And before that, Iowa didn't have the importance that it has today. But because Carter showed up there and was a sleeper, and ended up taking Iowa, everybody goes there now.
Either of you want to defend Iowa going first?
Well, I would say it doesn't matter. Iowa is to the presidential politics as the preseason is to the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter.
If Barack Obama hadn't beaten Hillary Clinton there and she had won New Hampshire and Iowa, you don't think Hillary Clinton would have been the nominee in 2008?
If. I mean, New Hampshire's part of this too, but I don't believe that Iowa is the tell. You remember President Gebhardt, or you remember, you can go on and on through a litany of candidates. You cited two of them that, George Bush came in third in Iowa behind Bob Dole and Pat Robertson.
So you don't think it matters. So should I not be upset about this, Dante?
I would defend the system a little bit.
You're a brave man.
Their method of voting is insane. It isn't anything that anybody should favor exactly. Somebody has to go first. New Hampshire goes first as a primary. I think it's impractical to have a national primary. So we've got to improvise something else. I'd be open to alternatives, but I don't think we have anything better.
We'll talk about a regional primary next time you come back. Let's put up some polls. Latest polls out of Iowa start with the Republicans. The Des Moines Register, which apparently is a history of being very accurate. Trump is up 5 outside the margin of error. On the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton is up 3 and is within the margin of error. And by the way, every poll I've seen has Trump up out of Iowa. Every poll has Clinton up, except the Quinnipiac poll, which has Sanders. Why is Donald Trump leading even amongst the evangelicals in Iowa, Jennifer?
That is a very good question, because the truth is that Donald Trump doesn't stand for anything the evangelicals believe in. I mean, married 3 times, numerous affairs, policy positions from abortion to, God knows what. He's not with them.
So why is he predicted to be the winner tonight?
Because people are angry, and people think that if they have somebody who's as angry as they are and they support him now, he will listen to them later.
You two buying that, Dante?
Somewhat, yeah, sure. I think one of the reasons I think the outcome is going to be exciting is we do not yet know. We've been speculating about it for months, the extent to which the members of both parties are in open revolt against their establishments. And that's what this Trump candidacy is about. We have speculated based on the polls about how big of a vote that is. Tonight, we're actually going to get the first glimpse from voters about whether that rebellion is as big as we think it is.
Does anger and rebellion trump everything? Let's stay on the Republican side, even though Sanders is a good example. Does that trump everything? I don't mean that as a pun, even though it is. Yeah. That was pathetic. My apologies.
Short term, with a number of different quote-unquote establishment candidates dividing up the Republican primary, yes, it does. It's also, I think, a little bit of, oh, he's winning, I want to be with the winner playing into this. I think what happens is the field winnows down and you have an establishment candidate emerge who takes on Donald Trump. Donald Trump becomes just the mean guy with the bad hairdo and his support dissipates. I hope that's wrong, by the way, as a Democrat.
You want Trump to be the
nominee.
nominee.
I want chaos on the Republican side.
Right, because he can't win the nomination. He surely can't be elected president and say all the Democrats. Yeah. Right. So, your newspaper endorsed John Kasich. New York Times endorsed Kasich. We had him on the radio the other day, and Mark Regan asked him, so do you hide your endorsement from the Boston Globe, or do you trump it? He says, I'm thrilled. It's terrific. The battle, it seems to me, starting in Iowa, where he's not really competing, is which of these establishment guys, governors, senators, emerges from the pack to be the challenger to Trump or Cruz. Do you have any sense if that's going to happen or who that person is going to be?
I think what we see from the polls is that there are all of the establishment lane candidates are bunched in the 12, 13, 14%. Kasich has appeared pretty strong in recent New Hampshire polls, so maybe the fact that establishment opinion in New England is moving in his direction is helping him, but I think it's still a crapshoot.
Do you think it's your guy? I mean,
I
he
do,
is
and
having
I'll
a mini surge, apparently.
Well, and
in
I'll tell
Iowa.
you why. Marco Rubio is everyone's second choice. Donald Trump is no one's second choice. So if you're for Cruz, you're for Jeb Bush, you're for John Kasich, and your guy's not doing well, Rubio's the guy that you're going to go to. And I've seen that reflected in polling data and in conversations I've had with Republican activists. So I think that's good for him. I also think that a strong third in Iowa is a win for Rubio because of the expectation game. No one ever expected him to win it. If he breaks out of the pack from Kasich, Christie, Bush in Iowa, he's the guy.
So the two Republican stories out of Iowa, who wins between Trump and Cruz, and who wins the establishment caucus, whatever it's
Although,
worth.
query why he's considered establishment. I mean, he's about as
Marco
conservative
Rubio?
as they get.
Well, yeah, but he's Speaker of the House in Florida. It's not
Yes.
exactly like he hasn't served, yeah.
I think the most interesting part about what's happening in Iowa is John Kasich staying in New Hampshire, fighting it out. He picked up the New York Times, he picked up the Globe over the week. A lot of moderate independents who will vote, choose to vote in the Republican or Democratic Party. If Kasich does that, I think he's in a very, very good position to become that establishment.
And you're all convinced that
candidate.
there is going to be an establishment candidate challenging the Trump-Cruz axis, or are you not?
I think
I am.
I am.
I'm not so sure, because the same dynamics that have kept the establishment race so divided all along could conceivably still be at work tomorrow morning or the day after the New Hampshire primary.
Can we, since I'm upset with Iowa, I'm happy to hear some voters in Iowa are upset too. Listen to them. Makes me feel better.
It's getting old. It's going to be nice to watch TV again, see some different commercials, not have as much mail. We get a lot of mail from the candidates.
The lack of phone calls will be nice, yeah.
Have the commercials and the calling.
They're annoying, very annoying.
All over the TV.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. I am so, it's just too much.
Iowa's in the spotlight for today. That's enough. Then they can all go home.
I think you should go home before they even go, but that's a topic, again, for another day. Let's switch to the Democratic side. Before we do, let's look at the New Hampshire polls, Republican first, and then Democrat. Trump is crushing the opposition, as you can see, colossally, tripling the number 2 person. On the Democratic side, crushing applies as well. Sanders doubling Hillary Clinton's vote. Starting with you, is anything that happens in Iowa enough to overcome Bernie Sanders' lead in New Hampshire? If Hillary Clinton wins this thing by 5, 6, 7 points, in Iowa that she lost 8 years ago, does that seriously eat into that, or is Bernie locked in?
I don't know if he's locked in, but it's hard to make up those numbers. And there's also a factor, he's a senator from a neighboring state. He enjoys a certain regional advantage in the same way that John Kerry or Mitt Romney did in New Hampshire. So I don't know that it's absolutely catastrophic for Hillary Clinton if those numbers hold up.
Is it catastrophic if she loses Iowa, too? Do you know who the only person elected president who lost Iowa and New Hampshire was?
Her husband.
Her husband, that is exactly correct. Is it catastrophic if she loses Iowa?
I don't believe so.
And New Hampshire?
No, I don't believe so. I think what she will do, she's down 29 points or whatever, according to that poll. She'll narrow that in the next week and call herself the comeback kid, as her husband did in 1992.
When he lost to Paul Tsongas, and everybody thinks he won the New Hampshire primary.
Exactly. And then what happens is they go to the South, and Bernie Sanders has as much chance of winning the South as he does winning a gold medal in the Olympic slalom.
Mr. Democrat, well, you never know. No one thought he could do this. Maybe he can ski. He's from Vermont. Well, he's from Brooklyn. He's sort of from Vermont also. We were speaking to Trip Gabriel from the New York Times today, who's been embedded in Iowa for 12 months, covering the primary. He says the hierarchy of the Clinton campaign is really nervous about this email investigation. We just saw the other day 22 top secret emails that won't even be released were found in a private computer server. Democrats are nervous. I don't mean rank and file Democrats. I know they're not consumed with this. But are leaders not worried that this could lead to something bad on her?
Sure. There's more to come in approximately a month right before Super Tuesday, and they want it to go away. They want to deal with it, cut their losses, and move on. And I think that's the problem. It just keeps on. It just keeps on hitting them, and they want it to dissipate.
Every Democrat like him says, "Boy, I really hope Trump is the nominee because we can really kick his you know what." Who's the Democrat that Republicans want more to emerge from Iowa and New Hampshire? Is it Clinton or is it Sanders? It's not going to be O'Malley.
No, it's Hillary Clinton.
Why?
Because she's beatable, because she's unlikable, she's not her husband, she doesn't have his retail political skills. But I'll tell you, I am not ruling out Joe Biden being the nominee. And just as Marco Rubio is the candidate that Democrats most fear, Joe Biden is the candidate.
And how would that happen? That
Republicans
Hillary
fear.
Clinton becomes so damaged that Democrats
From
cry
the
out,
email
Bernie Sanders can't
investigation.
win, they say, and then Joe Biden enters. You buy that quickly or no?
Jennifer wants the chaos that I want for the Republicans to happen in the
Would
Democrat
Joe Biden
Party.
be chaos?
I just think
No.
it's too late. No, I don't think it'll be chaos with Joe Biden, but I just don't see a scenario under which that happens.
How upset do you think Elizabeth Warren is sitting in her house every night in Washington or in Cambridge saying, I could be ahead in this race by 10 points? No?
She seemed to indicate she wasn't ready to run for president. I would take her
She's
to
one of the
word.
most influential members of the United States Senate.
But
That's
she's
not a
more
bad
than
thing.
ready to be Joe Biden's vice presidential
Listen to
nominee.
her. Nice to see you, Jennifer. I got to go. You can talk to them outside.
Thanks,
Great
Jim.
to see you, Warren. Dante, it's great
Thank
to
you.
see you, too. Biden and Warren.
It could happen.
That's what she says.